Thank you.
There we go. All right, Jan, you go next.
Okay. So I'm Jan, and my by name there is Kootenai Columbia Bioregion, which means that I'm up the Columbia towards the headwaters. So the larger understanding of Cascadia, I'm up in that region. But right now I'm in Victoria, where Claire is, and I have spent quite a bit of time in this region over the years. So this is where I happen to be right now. And yeah, long-term background of just constantly trying to figure out the question of how do we bring our best selves forward so that we don't keep harming each other and ourselves and the environment. And that's led me through things from being a somatic psychotherapist to looking at public processes for engagement to understanding the commons to bioregionalism, climate issues, stuff like that for decades. And yeah, appreciating what's rising here and appreciating starting to get to know each other more, because it feels like we're setting down, and appreciating Paul for helping us do that, set down some structures and policies and things that help us hold us, but really, really feeling the relationality aspect just smooths that. And it's not just oh, by the way, let's do relationality. It's like this work of discussing and knowing each other is that which the policies and procedures hold. And if we don't do this well, then why have policies, I would say. So that's me. And anybody else? Julie, maybe next.
Sure. I live in Tahuya, Washington, which is the lower part of the Olympic Peninsula in Washington. And I'm also the principal, I'm not sure if I'm the president or the executive director of the Northwest Permaculture Convergence. We're figuring out how to form, and we are slower than we are here in forming. Anyway, and currently I'm in Rhode Island for the rest of this month and most of February, sort of doing a exploration of who I am now, inner journey. Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the relationships. I don't think there's any point unless we, like Jan said, I don't think there's any point unless we have good relationships and connections. That's the beginning of building community, and we need community in order to rebuild a better culture that we can not just survive but thrive in. So I'm looking forward to figuring out how I can serve you, being in the core admin team with Claire and Brandon and Tanya. So yeah, I'm enjoying having conversations with Paul and Jan and Claire and everyone to see, what's really useful. I love it. This is an experiment. So let's see what's actually valuable and useful, and who is our customer? Who are we serving? Right. So I haven't tracked. Mike, have you gone?
Preferred communications.
Oh yeah. Julie.
Could I get your preferred communication, Julie, while we're doing this? I'd be fun. Yeah.
I'll remember that now. My preferred communication, probably call me on the phone. Let's get right down to it, because I'm already in frustration and overwhelm. And no, I will go to wherever somebody's communication is. I'm pretty flexible. Right now, I'm actually enjoying Telegram more than the website, actually, the website communication platform. I mean, on my big computer at home, it's easier to use, but then we're making that better, so hopefully. But yeah, email, text. I love text. I would say text is probably number one. And I like the way you said that, Claire. I would say, you know, if you can't reach me, just call me on the phone.
Thank you. And Mike, I'm sorry, but Jan, could you give me your idea on shared communication and then let Mike go? I'd really love to finish that task. It sounds exciting.
I just put it in the chat.
Oh, thank you. Perfect. Yeah, feel free to do so if you like and put it in the chat and I'll grab it from there. Thank you. So go ahead, Mike.
Yeah, thanks for doing this, everybody. You know, and I am working on two training. I'll call them sessions, probably not the right word. Using something called Learn Dash, which is part of WordPress. One for how to establish a purpose change, and the other about establishing seed propagation centers. And this is the first time I've been on this group, so I'm happy to be here. And I'm steward for the Cascadia Seed Guild, which is Cascadia, executive director for a project called Clan of Dragonfly, which is affiliated with the it's a hemp related permaculture project, basically. And any, you know, because I've lived in technology for about 40 years, I have used and do use every form of communication, so I'm open to any. Thank you. And I think I saw Claire well somewhere. Yeah, there you are. Do you want?
Sure, I'm sorry to have arrived a little bit late. The check-in question that we're doing is just why we're here and who we are and preferred communication. Yeah, so feel like I'm pulled in a lot of different directions right now, but it's so good to be here. And I think what I'm so appreciating, I mean, I love education, but I also have to figure out where to, like, where my energy is going. What I am loving is just the structural organization that I'm seeing, and yeah, just even just how documents are laid out, just how we can find things. I think that's always been the biggest bugbear for me, is just if you don't know how to navigate through, if you can't see it, if it's not transparent, it just this is like, how do you bring out the potential of people? That's what I'm really, really interested in. And so I just see that, like, that stymies all learning if that doesn't happen. So if this is about learning, then and that's what I think education is. So, and preferred communication, I actually like the hybrid of I'm liking what is starting to happen with the website in terms of how we can organize ourselves. But I do like I get overwhelmed with Telegram, but I do think the instant communication and the ability to see what is going on in all the other channels is actually really helpful. It's way more sort of intuitive and easy than the website, where things can kind of go off into their little rabbit holes, which I think is, like, it's important for that. So I actually like the hybrid. Yeah, and I don't know who else hasn't gone.
Okay, well, I'll take a shot. Hi. Well, first of all, I just really appreciate this group, and I really appreciate all the work that you're doing, Paul, to organize things. And I really feel that that we need the same process occurring in all the other groups to move forward. My preferred ways of communication, as you know, I would agree about text and email. I like a lot, because if there are additional documents for me to review, I like that. Phone is great. Zoom, actually, if I have meetings with individuals, I enjoy that, because there's more of a personal connection in that than the phone, but I'm used to both. And what I really like is working on documents in Google Shared Drive. That gives us the opportunity to look at what's been written down, think about it, and add our comments and thoughts. So I've appreciated the documents that have been put in there by Paul and Claire. Um, and um, and actually, I really disliked Telegram at the beginning, but I'm beginning to get a little bit used to it. It's not my preferred form, but I do now go through it and find it interesting. I really got into this work following my main business in mass media communications in 1980 because I was concerned about where things were going, and that happened to be the birth of my first child. So I took a real concern about what we're leaving to future generations, and that has gone from the environmental issues that then became the sustainable issues that have really come together as a resilient regenerative community issues. And I like working in the local area to create models that can work throughout the entire bioregion and beyond. And I think time's running against us. So I really like Regenerate Cascadia for how things are moving ahead and really give great appreciation to both Claire and Brandon for starting it. Um, and yeah, I really am very interested in how we come together as community. The term relationships has been used here a number of times, and I think that that is really key to building relationships. And I like the way this group is coming together as we get to know one another and share our ideas and thoughts, and hopefully come from shared interest to a shared purpose with this group. And as I've mentioned before, I think education from a whole system standpoint really connects with so many other aspects of what we're doing. I don't think we should silo any of these groups. I think we should look for the points of connection and the opportunities to develop synergy in our work. So that's about it.
Thank you, Larry. I think Anita and is it Joey? Or the last two. We're just doing a quick introduction just because we have a changing group right now in terms of attendance, and just who you are, where you live, why you're here.
Well, I'm Anita. I'm living in Bothell at Sangaya Co-housing Community right now. And I help to run the internship program in the garden. And let's see, I'm a little sick today, so I'm kind of like foggy headed. But I was excited to see, Paul, that this is a group that you're involved in. Joey sent me a link to this yesterday, like, hey, do you want to check this out? And so here we are checking it out to see what this even is. And I'm excited to like kind of get some little bits and pieces from you all of what's going into this pot here. Joy and I have been thinking for a little while now about we've actually been calling it the guild. The guild. And what we're hoping to sort of like nourish is a group focused on building skills that are at risk of being forgotten, specifically like skills, of it started us thinking about skills where we use our hands to create, such as like leatherworking and, uh, uh, hand tool maintenance and building and like, number of other things we've been thinking about, knife sharpening, just different things that we know that the skill and knowledge is out there, and we want to be like nourishing those skills that we know we're going to need in the times to come to really make the shift that we need to make. Do you want to say any more about that, Joey?
Yeah, it's really good to see everybody. I don't know why it's so comforting to be around a bunch of people who are older than me, but I just want to say that. I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll talk about myself. Yeah, so we've been thinking about, for years, this idea of a bioregional sort of cultural education center. And I don't even know what that means. It just feels like it's alive in me, and I don't know how to get there or anything. So I was talking to Anita. Anita and I live close together. I live in a house. It's almost like a satellite to Sangaya. It's like a 2-minute walk, which is a co-housing community. And I'm a teacher. I teach at a Montessori school in Bellevue. I run the Earth Education Program, which I've been developing from scratch. I bring a lot of myth and storytelling and music and dance and all sorts of things, ceremony into it to kind of bring the world back to life, which it's already alive, but you know what I mean. And I'm homesick as well, so I'm a little bit in this like ethereal realm right now. So I'm just gonna keep talking. Yeah, so this idea of a guild felt like a really approachable way to start walking towards this vision of like bringing people together to relearn, you know, even like how to go and like secretly tend a spot on a watershed and start to regenerate it. Like I see that as being part of a guild, something that a guild would do. So this is really exciting to me. I think it's a full moon today, so I'm not surprised that like I just randomly pulled up the Regenerate Cascadia site for the first time. I kind of know Joe Brewer years ago, and I saw this thing about the guild, and I was like, "You got to be kidding me," you know. So I was like, "Of course we're gonna go." So yeah.
Nice to have you
Oh
here.
my goodness.
Both, all of you new
Thanks.
people.
The weird attraction is working.
Anything I say about reskilling is I've done a ton of textile work over my life, and I think that's going to be really key for the future too. We're going to have to be returning to lots of things that used to be common.
Yeah. And I have to say, Anita showed up at the first ever restoration field station on the Skycomish River back in the day. So
Yeah.
yeah,
I want to come back. I heard that Lindsay is getting pretty involved with that now, Lindsay Crowfoot, or she's been continuing work with that, and I'm going to meet with her this afternoon, so that's fun.
we're trying to funnel money to employ her in doing what she does. So that's kind
Yes.
of yeah.
So I saw this on the website about the Skycomish, and that there are dates posted. There's a date in November for people to be there in person, right?
Yeah, it's February 23rd is the next field station. We're going to arrive Friday, leave Sunday or Monday, and we're doing planting at the site we've been visiting that Anita was at as well. So we're just basically, it's a 100-acre forest along the Skycomish River owned by the Chilelap tribes. And we're doing incremental, you know, biocultural restoration work on that site, and also using it as a gathering place so that people can actually hang out together, tell stories around the campfire, eat food, work in the forest.
Yeah, that's the thing, right? Community
in
the woods.
Okay.
Paul,
And the
Paul,
woods.
can I just, sorry, Paul, can I just
Yep.
jump in for a moment?
Please.
Regarding the project, you know, that project that you're talking about, that you're working on, I think I've mentioned this in some other medium, but, you know, bear in mind, we've got lots of seeds here. I mean, thousands. So if you need any, just let me know, and I'll just share this. It's just, you know, talking about that Joey was talking about, and Anita, that's a knife that was made for me from found. It's carbon steel, made locally. So 100% with you on that. We need to get back to making things ourselves. Thank you.
Beautiful.
So,
and I don't know where your accent's from, but we've been doing a lot of Scottish Irish music too. Just putting that out there. If anybody wants to join us.
Very close.
Excellent. So I'm gonna kind of, just for the sake of all of our shared understanding, I've been sharing a link to a document. That document is the place that I'm trying to maintain as our central memory banks of everything we've talked about or done or want to do. I ask that folks can throw agenda items into that document. There is a rolling minutes, so that also that same document contains all the minutes. At some point, I was actually thinking about doing a video training to help people understand the structure and purpose of the document and the various resources that we have as
Can you post the link in the chat, please?
It is here.
It's in the chat? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I just, every time someone new shows up, I reposted it. So you should have like 40 copies. And so that this is also a vehicle by which we can remember what we talked about, suggest things that we want to talk about, as well as get clear if we have agreements about how we work together, And ultimately, just for the, particularly for me as well as for Anita and Joey and others, that the genesis of this group was to respond to Claire Atwell and Brandon Letzinger's development of the Regenerate Cascadia platform that they're trying to build, this sort of network and the platform, and how the network and the platform work together, to sort of step up and say, we want to form a small coherent group that is able to support the development of something we're calling a guild. So that if there's going to be a guild, and it doesn't exist yet, it's going to need a core group that is sort of holding that space and trust and cultivating and building it. Then that group needs to be coherent and consistent and operate over time. And so the purpose is, I think, is to explore what it would mean for us to be that group, to try and cultivate something called a guild, and understand. I think that several of us have been here over and over again, and then some people kind of move in and out, and so we're not yet a coherent group, and then each of us probably have different ideas about what a coherent group might be. So a lot of what we're doing right now is just trying to make sense. So Claire.
I would kind of push on that framing a little bit, in that the focus, let's get to have more focus on learning and what we mean by education, and how does that serve hubs, development of hubs and bioregion. And we can have this conversation in our aims document, but I think this is not a group that's talking about how to make a guild. This is a guild, or formation of a guild, that others can replicate if you choose, or learn from, or whatever, participate in. But the focus, the aim of the group is not about how to create a guild. The aim of the group is what we will discuss in this meeting.
There we go. So agenda items. Often we have, Brandon's not here. We have a couple linkages to other groups that we kind of check in at the beginning. Figuring out how to get through the early part so we can get to the stuff that Claire's talking about is a challenge of ours. And so I was hoping we could whip through those check-ins as shortly as possible, and then agree to an agenda and dive in. So speaking for Brandon and Claire is here, website group, and is there anything live there that we need to know about? Doesn't have to be everything, just what's alive that we need to know about now.
Are you asking that of me, Paul?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to actually point to the update session that we're going to do tonight, where we'll probably go through that in a little more detail. I think right now we're just trying to, Julie could probably speak a little more to some of that, but just that it's in the website and development. Probably the biggest thing that I would love to just kind of highlight to this group, because I think it has significance in how we're talking about any of this, is looking at not thinking in a sort of a deficit mindset of like we don't have the resources, to really be thinking about what are the resources we need to do this work without barriers to it, because it does require certain things to be invested in, to make sure that we can hold the processes that we're developing, and to just be I just want to really highlight that. We really are hoping to create something that feels like a really compelling vision that can be funded, and what needs to be but it's not just the funding, it's like what are the things that are going to make this work happen. So that's the main part that I would love to bring to you. And we're trying to evolve off of the Telegram group. We're not going to do it straight away, but we're trying to maybe use a hybrid version of that. And I think it's a great question to have asked Paul, what kind of communication methods, because we also know there's a hybrid of how like people want to communicate. But yeah, that's it.
Thank you.
Can I ask 2 questions? What's the meeting tonight?
It's what Brandon and I were doing regularly last year, which is just updating on where things are at. There will be quite a bit of stuff on the website, but also on the organizational structure. I think that's where we're putting most of our focus right now, is taxonomy, making sure that we're kind of understanding how everything works together, like the guilds, the hubs, but the entire structure. And it's the other part of just saying is this is a co-creative process. So nothing is being developed like in some dark corner. It's completely involving everybody, and that's the intelligence and the potential of the system that we're developing. So
Nice. I have a
I put a
second
link to
question.
the I put a link to the event in the chat, and I put it in the notes too. So if
I want to
6:30,
ask
go ahead.
a second question about this link to the notes. Is that within the website? I mean, so that it would just be there linked?
Right now, a link to this notes is in a discussion in the Bioregional Education Guild forum. So you can go to that forum, you can see see a discussion, it points to the existence of this group and it links to that
Okay.
document.
So there's a heading under discussion?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And it's also linked on the page, isn't it, as meeting notes? I think I changed it
I
to circle
believe
log,
so.
AKA.
We haven't changed that.
Okay. I was trying to bookmark it, but I
I did
can't
change that,
Zoom
Paul.
open.
I added AKA circle log, meeting notes. Working on
Yeah,
our
that's-
terminology.
Yeah, I think we can approach that in agenda too. Asset mapping, Claire, any updates?
We're meeting
relevant to us?
tomorrow to review changes in the survey and to solidify the strategy for data collection. I don't want to go into detail right now about that.
Is that meeting, if someone wanted to, if someone wanted to participate in that meeting, is it open or not? And is there?
It depends on how much work you want to do.
Yeah, no doubt.
If you're just lurking, then go lurk somewhere else. Use your time better. Get away from the screen. Go dig in your garden. Okay.
You are
I'm
not
just kidding you.
attracting us to your job.
I'm just kidding you.
Jan?
So there is a meeting scheduled to review that again tomorrow night. I hadn't seen that
No,
listed.
tomorrow what, I don't have the calendar in front of me. Hold on. Yeah, you should have been part of that
Tomorrow-
conversation, Jan.
Is
I
this,
was at the first one, but I didn't see
Is it-
anything posted for another meeting. So
it's
I
at 3
wasn't
o'clock.
aware of another one. Did you send an
It's a-
email and I missed it,
It's
Claire?
at 3 o'clock.
I guess I fell down and did not send that email.
She will send an email. I know she will.
But you know what? This is what goes back to the question of where is the email list?
Oh,
Indeed, indeed.
You know, I
Okay.
can't do this just without. Anyway, I'll shut up.
and then also the other
But it's
question
scheduled
is,
for 3 p.m.
tomorrow.
Okay.
and the other question I had was the documents. Are we still working on putting feedback into the documents, and which document?
Thank you, Jan. Jan has been very helpful on this. I actually lost track of the documents because there was one doc, a Google Doc, which is I'm more comfortable with. I saw Larry commented in it, and then I can't even access the Microsoft doc because that's not my world. And that's
Oh,
probably
okay.
where most of the notes are.
And
So
Paul, that's the link. It's the Microsoft.
yeah, that's what the
Doc
link is. It
in
won't
the
open.
meeting notes. We need to use the Google Doc.
Okay.
So we need somehow to post that Microsoft Doc into the Google. And then when that's done, if there's 2 Google Docs, I'd be happy to merge the 2 with the comments.
Excellent. Okay. This will be probably addressed in our, Julie and I actually have an information management agreement proposal.
So I appreciate people muddling through, and I haven't really looked at the notes other than what Larry did. So if you want to put in notes, there's still time, and we'll go through and discuss it in detail tomorrow at 3 p.m.
Somebody putting that in the chat.
And then, so the remaining question is, how do I access an email list of everybody who wants to be there?
Yeah. We have, so far, the whole Regenerate Cascadia community has never used email as a communication vector. So it's creating a new communication pathway that is not currently in existence. And so
Okay,
that's
well,
the
Claire,
challenge.
what do I do? How do
Yeah.
I invite people to the meeting?
Yeah, I actually would love to just address this. I think one of the big things is like, how do we coordinate together and use the same language that, like, that's why the taxonomy, the everything. Some of it's going to feel really clunky. And so we're kind of like, there's a sort of like we're asking for people's patience while we're doing that. But it really does make a difference. So like the whole Word document in Google Docs, right now, Google Docs is great because almost everybody can access that. And so we've kind of asked that everyone try and use those as a for shared communication. The other part is that we have tried to ask that the meetings be scheduled on the calendar on the website, because that just then makes it visible. There is a way, maybe Julie could speak to this, but is making it so that it's like a small, like a closed group, or like you don't need to share the Zoom link on it. That could be, anyway, there's different ways. We're trying to figure this out, but it does make a difference if we've got a calendar that everyone can kind of look and see what's coming up and also know what's going on. I think the more we can share with what's going on, it kind of allows people to see inside the system, because everything is interconnected and working together to support the other. So the more we can see what's going on is really important. So Larry, I can see there's a lot more to be said about this. And I think that's part of what we want to convey and discuss tonight. And there will be other sessions, but this is, yeah, Larry.
You're muted.
Yes, thank you, Claire. Yeah, I would just like to add to that about the lists, or however we put it together. I really would like to have a list of people in Skagit County and San Juan County to connect with those people. And so if we're not going to have a mail list, I'm just wondering how that's going to be. I think Claire Atwell, you started to discuss that, and I'd just like to know more, and when will that be available?
Hey, if I could interrupt, I would love to move this conversation to a different channel, because this has to do with the assets held by Regen Cascadia and how those are shared, and those are currently held by Claire and Brandon.
Sure.
Is that okay with you, Larry? I'm sorry to interrupt.
No. I have no problem with that at all.
Okay, so to summarize, my understanding is that we have to be proactive. If we want to know what's going on, we got to check the calendar, and that's where we're going to be informed of stuff. Now, so is that a good summary for now?
There's also the discussions on the website.
Well, which means you have to spend hours trying to find discussions and track them and discuss in different groups and hop around. That doesn't work for me.
Claire, can I just suggest, I agree that moving this conversation, I think what you brought up is probably something we'll also make sure is part of tonight.
Okay,
So
I have
even if
another
you
meeting
can't-
tonight. One day notice is,
Yeah.
you know, being notified of a meeting the same day doesn't work.
Yeah, it's been
Sorry,
on the
I'm getting
calendar,
frustrated.
though. Claire, it's on the calendar, but it will be recorded.
Yeah.
And you can get that there, but we will make sure that this is really important. So great,
Yeah.
we'll bring it in. Okay.
I appreciate that so much. I also really like having a calendar that pulls everything together. My question on that is that this meeting that we're going to have tomorrow is a working group on a specific task with people who have been involved in that task with history. It's not an open meeting for anybody to come and put their 2 cents in on an ongoing project. So does that not work on a calendar? I don't know. It feels uncomfortable
Can I
to
make
me.
a suggestion? I'm sorry. I know we're trying to somehow.
And
move
I'll
on
be
to another
quiet.
topic, but I'll just jump in here if that's okay. I mean, if we want as a group to make a spreadsheet with all of our contact information, why can't we do that? And we can link it on the one meeting log thing.
Yeah, Julie, you know what? I think this should be addressed. There's a whole way that this is happening that we can talk about in the update session.
Yeah.
And I also want to just really acknowledge the autonomy of what Claire is talking to about working group meetings. Really important to protect the boundary of that. So there is a whole conversation there, but anyway, I want to acknowledge it and also say
we can sync our personal calendars so it's not on the public regenerate. And there will be lists. Every group will eventually have email lists. That's a part of the whole infrastructure too. And with that, we can move on.
That is all that I have in our a quick information reports about what's happening adjacent to us. Obviously, there is a lot happening adjacent that affects how we're able to talk to each other and how we're able to communicate effectively. At our last meeting, Julie and I were assigned the task of coming up with some kind of information management agreement, like some consistent way that we share information. So this is on topic, and we actually did that work and brought back some text that we could share. We don't have to decide now, but I wanted to at least make sure that we're able to share that text so that you can see what we would propose based on our conversations and investigation. That's one item. Another is we wanted to make space to talk about Quinn and John's event, which is coming up in February. However, neither Quinn nor John are here. So I would propose that talking about it without them here would be a waste of time, and that we should instead send anyone here who wants to be an emissary, go approach Quinn, go ask Quinn and say, hey, Quinn, I'm here, I want to help. And so that would be a good way. So Quinn is doing a open space on very much about what we're talking about here, but we haven't heard from him very much. Third, yes.
Before you move on from that, I'll have to look. I'll put it in the chat. But we have a meeting coming up. I think it's tomorrow, with John and Quinn to talk about and design that session. So I'm going to say that anybody who's interested in that, I'll put that in there. Yeah, and I don't know that that's on the calendar because I think it was supposed to be a working group meeting. So yeah, even our own systems are kind of being challenged here.
Oh yes, we will all. When I moved into co-housing, one of the elder colleagues there said, every button you have will get pushed, and even some you didn't know you had.
I know that about co-housing.
So let's see. And so then another is, so I guess I'd say, I'll make sure that gets into the notes, so you can always go back to our single location and find about this meeting tomorrow. So there's this information management decision as one topic. There is a second topic, which is getting at the shared purpose of this group. Why are we here? And it feels like that would be good to have that opening conversation. And Jan and I had an idea that we could probably cover in 5 minutes, just to introduce the idea at the end of the meeting, if we have time, about ways of building shared understanding, and that would be creative and involve collaboration between a couple of people. That would be kind of deeper explorations. So I guess so I would propose an agenda with 2 items. Start with share the information management agreement, see if we're able to find a decision there. I would offer a sort of a sociocratic approach to evaluate that and see if that works for folks. And then the second would be exploring our different ideas of shared purpose based on some text that Claire Strong put together. Is that, so I guess I would say, show me, we're going to do the fast version because we're always running short on time. We often would put thumbs up means, yeah, that sounds like a good plan. Sideways is, I have concerns I want to talk about, and no means that's a stupid agenda and we need to redo this thing. So if we can show thumbs about an agenda that includes information management agreement first, and then diving into what are the aims of this group. Okay. All right, all thumbs up, let's go. So information management agreement, if you go to the document, our shared place where everything lives, there is a table of contents on the top. It's even above the fold. It's on the first page, and in that table of contents, is anyone here not in the shared Google Doc? Okay, so that's great. Yeah. So in that table of contents, you can see, you can jump around and you can see all our meeting notes. And then there's this section which is called Circle Governance. And at the bottom of that, there's Circle Agreements. And the very first agreement is this information management policy proposed by Paul and Julie. So this is something where the group asked a subset to go out, come up with an idea, and then bring it back to the group. And so if you click on that link, it'll zoom you to the bottom, or it gives you an option to jump to the bottom of the document. And you can see this information management policy. I debated calling it agreement or policy. Some people can be emotionally triggered by the idea of a policy, and we can call it an agreement instead, if that works.
Are you saying it's at the bottom of the document?
It is at the bottom of the document. I'm just giving you some of these secret shortcuts that make it faster to get around.
Oh. It's very small type.
You can zoom it larger by increasing the font size in your browser. You can do that by
Okay.
holding down Control and plus. It's one quick shortcut.
Okay.
So Julie and I had a conversation, several conversations, and talked with some other folks, and we came up with this idea about how we organize ourselves around this log and around working documents. Because if we don't have a standard, we have to reinvent it every time. We have to spend lots of time communicating the new way that we're doing things. If we don't have a single way of doing things, we consume a lot of our limited energy and resources reinventing how we share information with each other. And that's part of what's good about having a coherent group. So what I propose is that we each take a couple minutes to read this to ourselves, and then we'll start rounds looking for clarification, and then a round for reactions and see if we have any initial reactions to this proposal. And the goal is not to come up with the perfect policy or the perfect agreement, but rather to have one that's good enough for now, safe enough to try, that we can change later. So this is not, we're not gonna brand you or give you a tattoo with these things on you. It's just a matter of coming up with a short-term strategy. So I'm gonna be quiet. And when you're done reading, raise your hand.
Well, I'm sorry, I haven't managed to get to it.
My apologies.
I see it linked here as an agenda item, but it doesn't link, it doesn't open.
Thank you. Let's see, how can we make that happen? So are you able to get into the Google Doc that has been shared in the meeting chat?
Let's see. I don't know if I know the answer to that. This is underlined in blue like it's a link, but it doesn't open.
Oh.
Can you just share it on the screen?
Yes. One moment, please. There we go. Share entire screen. That one. Share. I'll get rid of that.
Thank you.
Paul, question for you.
Yes.
If you can, it's taking up the whole screen. Could you just maybe take that down from full screen? Because I was working on the other document and I can't move your document down.
Oh, interesting. I can't share it with Doris and give you your screen back. So you might need to
Escape
go-
out of full screen Zoom so you can look at Zoom
Yeah.
and have your screen.
Oh, yeah, of course. Okay, got
There you
it. Got it. There we go. No, that didn't work. No.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead and raise your hand when you're finished reading. The first round is going to be just asking for clarification. What is it you don't understand, either about the proposal or the implications of the proposal, or how the proposal might affect our work together? I think the first step in coming to an agreement is making sure we're all talking about the same thing. And so focusing our initial attention just on making sure we all understand what this is saying is a good way to stay focused. We can get to making a decision later, but if we just make sure we understand this proposal from Julie and me and whether or not you can feel like it's good enough for now and safe enough to try. So what I want to suggest is I do a round. I'm going to ask each person to give see if they have any clarifying questions. And so the reason I do that is because some folks are more verbal and able to step in than others. And by doing a round, we make sure that each person has a chance to express their confusion. If we didn't do that, then we would have to all compete for airtime. And by doing a round, it helps us avoid having to compete for airtime. So I'm just gonna pick folks for fluidity. So like Jan, for example, Jan start, then Mike, and I'll always kind of do that just to keep it rolling. You don't have to say anything. If you feel pretty clear, good enough, then just say, I got nothing, and move on. Just clarifying questions.
I'm clear enough about the intent and the capacities of Paul and Julie. It feels all will live into it and then it'll make more sense to me, but I'm in the good enough to go with it now. Thanks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So Mike and then Claire Strawn.
Yeah, that looks fine to me. Yeah, thank you, Paul.
Yeah, Claire then Anita.
Good enough for now. I would ask for a little bit more specificity on maybe some breadcrumb trails of where these things are, like where is the discussion, number one, and you have a discussion in quotes. Is that in the guild discussion, for instance, or, you know, whatever. But other than that, it's good enough for now. It's good. Thank you for the work.
Anita, then Larry.
I think I'm still sort of orienting myself to like the website and the things like the forum and like the idea of like in documenting projects, creating a post. So I think I'm still sort of orienting myself to the website and the structure here. But I think as I dig deeper, it seems like there's enough resource here for me to really get clear on what's, the structure.
Thank you. Larry, then Claire Atwell.
Yes, I'm very fine with this. Certainly good enough to go. The one question I had here, and maybe I not understanding it fully, is what is the Learning Guild Forum? Yeah, I understand the Learning Guild group, which we're in, but what's the Learning Guild Forum?
What I'm going to do is I'm taking notes on all the questions, and then I'm going to try and address them all at once, if that's
Sure.
okay with folks, just as a way, again, for trying to keep the pace. Claire Atwell, then Joey.
Sorry, was there someone after Larry, or is it me?
That's you, and then Joey.
Okay. Yeah, no, I think it's great. The one thing I wondered is Tanya is doing what do you call it? She's doing videos to kind of help people orient.
Orientation videos.
Yeah, thank you. And I'm just sort of thinking that just given the comments that have come up, that those might be really helpful. But I love this as a first poke at it, and just helping to kind of lay out what it is that we mean.
Excellent, thank you. Joey, and then Julie.
Yeah, same for me. It's just so green for me that I'm still getting used to the outside looking in, and I'm on the inside looking at it now, so it makes sense. But just want to say it's really cool to see the beginnings of something, because it's hard to take what's amorphous and give it form. So yeah, it's got my blessing for what it matters.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Julie, then Doris.
I'm having trouble moving around. Can you guys hear me? Am I muted?
Yes, we can
Okay,
hear you.
I trust all of you, and it's amazing being led by Paul. So I'm good.
Doris, and then I'll try and resolve the first round. Yeah.
I am also good enough to go, and I appreciate the work.
Thank you. So what I heard, first of all, for Larry, the Learning Guild forum is one of the major structures on the website, is a bulletin board forum where you can create discussions, respond back and forth. It's like a bulletin board on the website. And so that's a space that we can potentially manage on behalf of Claire and Brandon, should we play this role. So I agree, Claire, in terms of figuring out how to make sure that we all know where we're going. I was thinking that the video could be a way that sort of shows it. And the other place is I started a terminology section on our shared logbook. So just above the circle agreements is the terminology section. I started writing down what the words mean, and I could put links in there too. And then also I am thinking about Tanya and some of her amazing skills as we go forward on this as well.
I just want to make a comment about accessibility. Some of us are mentally old and don't retain something on a video, which is why I was suggesting breadcrumbs.
When you say breadcrumbs, what do you mean?
I mean, like the path to get there, like website / guild, learning guild for, /forum.
Yeah, I hear you. Okay.
Yeah.
And so links and written versions. Okay.
Yeah.
And I see some hands up. I'm not sure if those hands are up from back when we were putting our hands up, or if it was something else. So any before we sort of do just to do the decision, I heard a lot of positive so far. Any other questions for clarification before we kind of close, clarifying questions? And of course, again, this is the beauty of having a really consent-based system is we're not locking ourselves in. We're just coming up with an agreement that works for now that we can change later if we need to improve it.
I want to just give you one little partly goofy thing, is that when I went to open the document, my computer said it was suspicious.
Yes, indeed. It's good,
Okay.
good to keep you safe.
I'm thinking you're not suspicious.
Yeah,
I don't know. Okay.
I got it
I guess.
too.
Okay. So I think that the last round then I would like to do is I'm going to, as facilitator, I'm going to go right past a reaction round. If there was more churning to be done, we might use a reaction round to kind of get a list of concerns, you know, and then look at amending. But at this point in time, because of the kinds of questions and comments, I'm just going to go straight to a consent round, which is basically another way to ensure thumbs is the fast way. And then the other way is to actually verbally say, yeah, I consent to this agreement, right? And it's nice to do that sometimes. Sometimes there are manipulation strategies in groups where you can kind of railroad something through. And if someone's not aggressive enough to like stand up and block it, that they may have. So by actually going around and saying, I give consent, it's kind of verifying that we're really there, right? So these are different strategies. With this group at this moment in time for this, I'm going to suggest we just do thumbs. And so thumbs is thumbs up to adopt this policy. Now, here's the one other thing about sociocracy. I'm going to say we adopt this policy for 6 months. And I'm going to put a note in here. So in 6 months, whoever the secretary is going to remind us to look at this again and say, is this still working? Is this doing what and so it's not even a permanent policy. It's just something that we do for 6 months. And then we know that we're reminding ourselves to go back and check our thinking and reinvigorate the agreement. So that's what I'd say is, would you give consent to this policy as written for the next 6 months? And Julie and I will continue to steward and try and increase these resources over time, and would look anyone else who wants to pitch in, we're more than open to that. So how about a show of thumbs to consent to this as written for 6 months? Yeah, there they are. Okay, we're done. Next topic. Let's see, what is it? It's February, March, April, May, June, July. So you can look at it in July, see who's.
Maybe you want to stop screen sharing with that now.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
So that was what was that fun term? Policy. I can't even remember. Did we do it?
This is policy adoption. Oh,
Adoption.
Julie we had a conversation about policy adoption versus policy deployment.
Another art form.
It's easy to make up policies. We can do them right and left. The hard thing is figuring out how we do them together. So
well,
that's
actually,
the policy
until we actually use these things, I don't think it's deployed.
Yeah. So feel free to check in with Julie and I, and we'll continue to try and figure out how to make it easy to use these policies. That's the trick. Next conversation, we go back up to the log, and again, I'm pushing the edge. As I'm facilitating, I'm not secretarying. This level of facilitation, I can't simultaneously secretary, and so all of that happened with no notes.
So mentoring, I love it.
However, you have a recording.
There we go.
If you're really
then you have to go watch the whole damn thing.
Well, that's the thing. On time and a half or double time.
There we go.
Helps.
Next agenda item was the shared purpose topic of like, because what we're trying to do is come up with our shared purpose. There is a link to a working document. That link is there. I'm going to copy that link, copy link URL, stick it in the chat.
Is this the aim? Are we on to the next?
Yep.
Thing,
on to the next topic. Take a big breath. New topic. So just a quick origin story. This document, at the beginning of this process, I wrote down what I thought it would be fun to do together. But it was no one else's idea. This is just my idea. Claire quickly identified that there's too much information there to do it all at once. And so we decided to put it into chunks. And I asked Claire, well, where should we start? And she thought the AIM would be a good place to start. And so I'm going to share my screen briefly to make sure we are all oriented. There we go, share screen.
Is that the last link you put in the chat also?
The last link I put in the chat, and it's also in the agenda item on the shared agenda.
Because you can find everything from our circle log called meeting notes.
So here's it's the first page of the document, and then there's this start topic 1, put a little chunk in there, and there's a sort of a sense of the vision that I have, which is we're a stable group. And then here is language that Claire produced, and I did some highlighting and messing, and then I came up with a simplified version below to try and capture the essence and identify sort of our language challenge.
Is
And so
everybody
what I would,
seeing what he's talking about? Sorry. Aim of group is Claire's and Paul's simplification underneath that.
anyone wave your hand in the camera if you're feeling lost and annoyed.
I can't see anything,
Okay.
but I'm not
Is it-
annoyed.
Are you unable to get to the Google Doc? I'm just hoping to try and diagnose a little bit.
Well, you're doing your screen share, but it is very small with the
Oh.
column of notes and the, you
Dig
know,
it.
the size.
There we
Oh,
go.
that's a little better. Good.
There we go. Okay. Yeah. So what I'd propose we do the same thing. Read it through ourselves and raise your hand when you're done. And then we can, what I'm thinking about here is, what are we doing together? So that, and just to clarify in my brain, our aims are what we use to make decisions, you know, as together about our shared resources, and to do things together and to help things. Is we do things together to achieve our aims, and we object to things that undermine our aims. So this is kind of how we orient together. And so aims are really powerful and useful, both to help us clarify our decision making, as well as to arrive on work that we think is important.
Can I take
Claire, you
on
have
to
your hand
that,
up.
Paul?
Yeah, please.
Just, I also see them as helping us define our scope of interest and work, and that each of, like we were just talking about policy implementation, each of these aims can also point to activities that will achieve these aims.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And pointing the other direction as well.
And also,
Claire,
Yeah.
what does pointing the other direction mean? Sorry.
That means if you have an aim like identify areas of knowledge, well, that might suggest that you need to get some data collection about areas of knowledge. It points to, it suggests an action to be taken that's
Okay.
connected to meeting the aim.
mm-hmm. Yeah. And I want to, in terms of what I did, I bolded verbs because I was always curious about verbs. And I also identified the things like knowledge like things I put in brown, just out of from my own curiosity, because I think we're talking about lots of different knowledge like things, and we're talking about different verbs. So that was how I was trying to make sense in my mind.
Okay, nice.
Okay, I'm going to be quiet now. Read,
No, but
raise your hand when you're done reading.
I appreciate that you're using active verbs, and I wonder how we will be able to capture these discussions for future people who wonder how we got to certain places. I mean, I realize you're capturing a ton of stuff about our movement, but we're as a group able to change our assumptions and teach each other things, and wonder how we'll leave that to the people who come later who weren't part of this process.
So I'm gonna try and capture notes, and we have the video. I do want to make sure that everyone has a chance to chew on this. So if you can, let's just raise your hand when you're ready to start conversing. But I want to give everyone a chance to really read.
Are you going to show us your simplification?
It's below it.
Oh,
In
yeah.
Screen share, which is what I'm.
Let me know when.
Yeah.
So I'm sharing for the benefit of Doris. Feel free to open up your own window. And Doris, tell me when you want me to scroll up, because I think that's why I'm screen sharing.
Yeah, I've read down to the cross-pollinate.
raise your hand when you're ready to have a conversation about this. Raise your virtual hand if you can. That helps me. Or not. What is it they used to say? Raise your hands and keep them up.
Show that you're listening.
Awesome. Thank you all. Okay. So I have no idea how to do discussion on this, but so I think we should just do popcorn and just start with reactions.
May I have a suggestion, Paul?
Mm.
Just that the first round, maybe are there major aims that you think we're about that are not captured in these statements?
Something missing. The missing check. Good idea. Why don't we actually do a round and sort of initial reaction is something missing, and who'd like to start? Claire.
Yeah, I'm just sort of thinking of the role of the guilds working with the on-the-ground communities, mostly hubs, to co-create what's needed rather than like, I do think that the guilds do work as a unit, but I kind of am wanting to see something of that reflected in the language. I know it's I did make a comment, I think, in the point 3, make learning modalities and content available to hubs and communities across the bioregion. It just feels very one way rather than like a two-way thing. And I actually think it's going to happen both ways. Like one is going to happen the other.
What do you think cross-pollinate means, Claire?
Yeah. I
would love to avoid a back and forth, but maybe go ahead and we'll see if it becomes a pattern.
Yeah, no, you're right there. Thank you, Claire.
Okay.
Hands raising your hand.
How about Jan and then Julie?
Oh, I wasn't sure if you had already said an order, sorry. It feels like the list of arenas is one more I think would be good to put in there, be develop capacities to integrate and apply knowledge.
Mm-hmm.
It takes it another step into, it feels a bit too passive, the list that's there. That would be a suggestion I would have.
Integrate.
I'm taking notes, Paul, in the doc.
How about
and it's develop capacities to integrate and apply.
Yeah.
Okay.
How about Julie and then Larry?
Pass.
Larry, then Joey.
Let's see if am I muted?
Nope, you're good.
Nope, I hear you.
Okay. Wow, this is I think that is really an issue. I think what Claire Atwell brought up is really important because in any community, there's so much information coming in within that community that may be of value back to the whole. So I think it is that cross-pollination of knowledge that is critical. And in each community, those are going to be the people who are applying that knowledge. And so I think that the community needs to have that, in effect, that community memory, that knowledge, that information, and the ability to work on solutions that may be, in fact, important to other communities and the whole.
Thank you. How about Joey, then Joey, then Anita.
Yeah, I felt a real sense of strength and beauty in the words when I read them. It was kind of like this yes feeling, you know. It's always great. And I think what other people are saying are, there was like one little thread that I felt was missing and wasn't able to name. So I think folks are activating that thread, and but it looks like it's really strong to me.
Thank you, Anita, and Julie passed Anita, then Paul.
Yeah, for someone new to this, just a like explicit definition of what the difference is between a hub and a guild. I would love to know that. And I can kind of guess, but I'd love to know what you all are thinking.
Now, Paul, then Doris. So hub is local place. Guild is skill or topic-based community that transcends place. And so thinking of that as a matrix. And I was very interested in all of the ways that we think we are managing knowledge. And so I was kind of curious and interested about all the different words that we use to describe this thing called knowledge or wisdom or practices or whatever's. And sort of that felt like territory that was rich. I felt comfortable with, I thought the overall framework that Claire put together felt really sound and solid. And I wanted it to be more transparent. And that's why I did the simplification piece. But I really enjoy everything that's there. And I think that so the verbs are good. And then this, what is the thing what is the thing we're doing? And I really love the question about that Jan brought up of how do we develop the capacities within communities to integrate and apply knowledge. So I was thinking about the capacities of the communities themselves as part of this thing we're working with. I like that. Okay, Doris, then I think we've gone around.
I had something to add.
Okay. I really appreciate the thoughtfulness of this, the depth of understanding and intelligence. It really works for me, and I have never been part of a group that goes in these directions quite so beautifully.
How about Larry and then Claire? You were the original author. What do you think after hearing everyone speak?
By the way, I concur with Doris's feelings about all of this. This is just a terrific way to organize everything, and I applaud Paul and Claire for what you're doing. The one point that I wanted to get back to was number 2 under aim of group. Activate broad cultural change in bioregion by exploring diverse populations to regenerative strategies and possibilities. This is why my comment at the end of this document is, again, this work doesn't happen in silos. This has that particular point, number 2, has a lot to do with our media outreach and the stories that we tell through all media. And reaching diverse populations, we tend to have more people who are older. Thanks, Joey, for coming on with that point. And we do need younger people, but we also need, it not only needs to be intergenerational. How do we bring in people from other groupings, African American, Native American, Hispanic American? How do we bring in all the other groups and let them know that they are absolutely integral to developing these ideas?
Thank you. Claire, you were the one that set pen to paper. You got all these reactions. Any kind of...
Yeah, thank you everybody for that thoughtful response. When I close my eyes and think about the process that we're engaging in, I kind of see it as like the circulation of knowing, like blood, a circulation system, and that it's generated, the knowing is generated through practice, and the practice is happening in the hubs on the ground, right? But it's also fed by theory and by science and all the other kinds of things that go into it. So I think there's a couple layers of work that we're embarking on. One is harvesting, and maybe this would be a good way to organize it. Harvesting what we learn from the hubs, right? And that's like number 5. And nurturing that, you know, greenhousing it, but then also distributing it across the whole bioregion. So that's a whole function of, I mean, I don't think that that's contained only within the Learning Guild. You know, that's like almost everything that we do. But to just see it in terms of energetic process, that's a big core piece of it. The other piece of it is what do we call it? What is it called when you gather stuff in the forest? Foraging.
Oh.
Foraging our wealth of what's already there, particularly in terms of indigenous communities and communities of practice that aren't part of our ideological clique, you know, and bringing those forward. That's what I mean by amplifying. So then there's the work of extending it out, giving it away, building the movement, you know. And I think that the function, from what I understand so far, of the whole bioregion organization is we're going to have like permaculture convergences, you know, or places where we share our experience and our knowledge. So that's part of the whole functioning of the bioregional organization. And then we're trying to make a mass movement for the whole bioregion. That's, you know, and that involves what Larry was just talking about, is getting the word out there and telling stories and influencing the agenda out in the world, influencing the curriculum of the universities and the elementary schools, etc. So that's what I have to say. Period.
Yeah, I see. Doris has her hand up. Is your hand up, Julie, or is it just left over? Left over. Okay. Doris, and then I want to propose a next step, maybe.
I keep having a concern surface about how it's very easy for us to talk about ecosystems, but I think we need to talk more about the human systems and you know, the how do we make healthy communities? Because, well, like today, I heard half of the population can't afford their housing costs. I mean, we have such damage to so many people. And I think we really have to work hard to think about human systems and cooperatives and jobs and okay, I don't need to say more, but it just keeps coming up in me.
So what I see, my job here is, and Claire has, I think, started and given us this starting place. And in her reflections, I see her even evolving as we're talking and enriching her own ideas as we go. And so I feel like I'm trying to facilitate a relationship between this group and Claire as an author, so that Claire is able to author our shared understanding. You know, so that's my kind of how I'm thinking about this in my sort of meta conversation with myself in my head. And so I would love to do another quick round just to see, does that sound accurate to you? And what do you see as the next step? That'd be my kind of query for us as a group, and just to hear from each person. And then maybe we can end with Claire again and then see how she feels about what she heard as a way to go. Anyone who's feeling like they know next step, and how does that work?
I got something poking up in me, just a small thing.
Yeah, please.
I feel like the human psyche works better in narrative form than in like list form. So when Clara was talking about sort of a metaphorical in a way of thinking about it, that was like so much more concrete and the vision was there. But when I read it in the way that it is, and it's sort of a layover, I think, from bureaucracy, is like trying to simplify things and list them out like that. But that can maybe live it alongside a narrative that paints a picture in a different way. It might bring it into the world more tangibly.
Thank you. How about
Thanks for that
Claire?
idea.
How about Claire Atwell and then Julie?
Just as our reflections?
Next steps, and and also just the construct of us trying to help Claire author a story about our shared purpose, if that feels right.
Yeah, I don't know that I have. I love what you just brought in, Joey. I don't really have a lot more to offer. I'm really excited about the way this exchange is happening and how we're building off of each other.
Not Julie, then Larry.
I like the clarity that while we started The Power of the Pen with Paul, Claire is stepping into authorship, and we're consenting as a group. We're working with her to do that, so that we sort of become one voice, for many of us. That's all I have to say. I don't know next steps. It sounds like a good next step to me. I like how we're working.
Thank you, Larry. Then Jan.
Yeah, Claire, I think you've done a great job of laying this out. As far as next steps, even before I go to next steps, it occurred to me that based on some previous work that I did with John Knott in Denver, I think bringing in the colleges and universities into this is really important. It's part of building a strong coalition in the community of other groups that we can work with. And I know this has been part of what Claire and Brandon have been talking about as well. But colleges and universities are very powerful in this particular area of education if we can get the right people in those universities who agree with this particular movement towards regenerative work. That's powerful. And quite frankly, I think we also need to consider adding in this coalition, certainly local businesses. The business community is important, and certainly, of course, organizations working around this. And we're going to have to deal with government, and instead of having them be a block or an obstacle, I think we need to figure out how to work with governments in this regard as well, which Paul is in that particular vein, but I think there's a lot that we need to do to engage them, because when we talk about funding, I think there are also funding sources from those particular areas. So I don't know how that fits into this, but I love the way this is going, and let's just keep doing it. It's great organization. Thank you, Claire, and thank you, Paul.
So Jan and
I have to
Anita?
say everyone there.
What?
I'm just saying this is the group mind working. I was appreciating all the minds working together.
Thank you. Jan, then Anita.
Yeah, next steps. So I think for me, I would like just to read through the document again as it's developed, just to kind of feel into it and see if there's anything that I would like to tweak, or then maybe have another time in which we go, yes, we're in agreement on this. So I'd like that space. I really appreciate what Joey has said. I think adding in to this document and the many ones that I see coming out of Regenerate Cascadia is possibly having little vignettes, little stories, a little audio of stories of people who are experiencing what they have experienced, what they're looking for, how this part relates to it. So it enlivens that. And then, you know, building in some visual creative pieces. So that we're enlivening this. Otherwise, we've just got the dead words. But I really do appreciate the work on, we need to agree on this. So words are kind of how we do that. But wow, that's great. And agreeing with Larry, it's a sense of how do we dance with, in general, the mainstream bureaucratic world that has a different viewpoint in some ways, but also is so significant because they're not the enemy, but how do we, so I think again, in many places here and in Regenerate Cascadia in general, how that interface works so that we don't, as so many movements have done, we don't lose ourselves in there. That's really important. And Claire, I so appreciate you for giving us a framework that we can respond to, and for Paul for reflecting that you and we are changing as we consider it, which I think is a huge piece of what is part of the capacity building, is that we notice that we're changing as we're doing it. That's a big learning skill. Thank you.
Thank you. Anita, then Paul, I think, and Claire.
Wow, this is incredible. I noticed myself kind of zonking out because I'm sick, and yes. But I think that I am just like, based on like my own work and community, it really feels like what you're all saying about the narrative being the piece where people can then start to see themselves in this, like, oh, there's me in that, there's my place in that. Like that feels like a really important element to leave the story broad enough for people to see themselves in it, because that's where you're also going to get the people who, you know, you're also encountering that edge where it's like, oh, I can't see my identity in that, I can't see myself in that, I can't see my life circumstances in that. And so it does feel like the narrative is a very important like interface piece. And just thank you all. This is really incredible. It feels like there's like just a lot of power here, power behind this. Like it already has so much momentum, and it's so beautiful to see.
Thank you. For my contribution to the round, I was particularly struck by the idea of representing the same thing in two ways. I just love that idea, a narrative story arc, as well as sort of a bureaucratic checklist, and having them coexist in a way that creates a fuller vision of the whole. So I like that a lot. I think different ways speak to different people, and that the whole is actually more than the writing ever is. I love the idea of enlivening the whole with like audio and video decorations on top of this, you know, kind of sense that we're cultivating something that is not that which we are pointing at, but rather something that's larger than that which we are pointing at. That feels powerful too. And I also, in particular, I think the idea of crafting this so that each individual can see themselves in the process. I love that. That feels really important. So that's my contribution, just reinforcing things that people already said. I've got nothing more to add to all that. As facilitator hat on, Larry has his hand up. We're over time, and Claire is the author and has, I think I would love to give her final word. And what I heard though is that an additional time to chew and think, and then maybe a revision, and then bringing it back, you know, as some kind of whatever is good enough for now, safe enough to try. I have a bunch of notes here. Claire has notes. So I think that's the next step. And I think you probably need to wrap up this meeting to show respect for people that have other schedules and things going on, and then get back together on this next Thursday. So Larry, if you can keep it brief, and then
Yes.
Claire to kind of set the stage, and then I'll try and clarify what the next steps that I heard are.
Okay, thank you, Paul. I put in the chat something that just came across my desk today, which is Creating New American Stories of Us by Bridge Entertainment Labs and others. When you look at the group of people who are involved in that movement, I think that's very consistent to where we are, because this is telling the story. This is taking the ideas out of, written word or whatever, and putting it in ways that people can see themselves in the story. I would also say that I'm working with John Bowie, Phoebe Barnard's husband, and their co-producers of doing some great work. And John and I are talking about creating, the stories that we can use, really beginning with a talk show format, but moving on from there to the kind of civic engagement that eventually I'd like to see. So I think that that one, Creating New American Stories of Us, could be an interesting resource for us to look at.
Thank you. It's got to speak to the heart, right?
Claire, would you be willing to give a shot in kind of wrapping this up, what you think your next steps as author might be, what you'd offer to us, and what
Right.
you would be willing to consent to doing?
Yeah, so I agree that it would be good to revise the draft with the contributions in mind, and to revisit it next week. I want to point out that some of your interests, Larry, that you discuss about reaching out to colleges and different next steps, things to do, are part of an underlying agenda that we'll be talking about tomorrow, about how to gather data, how to build relationships from the hubs out, and what have you. So the next steps are action as well as writing. And I think best collaboratively. So if anybody wants to have a phone or a Zoom meeting on the side to think about the revision, I would welcome that. I'm going to put my contact information in the chat.
Excellent.
By the way,
Thank you.
Claire, is that meeting, do you have a link to it? I'm not sure if it's in the chat or not.
Which meeting? Tomorrow's meeting?
Yeah.
I just sent a chat to Claire. I tried to put it in the calendar. I don't have permissions to put anything in the calendar.
It's all in these rooms, same room. Is it, or is it in a different Zoom?
I don't know. I don't know where anything is. I just went on the website and went to the calendar, and I didn't have access to put something there. But there is a general Zoom link that I'm assuming that we can just use. That's on the left side of the calendar.
It is Claire and Julie. I don't know if you would be able to help Claire, but I wouldn't mind getting on a call with you anyway, Claire. So
Maybe
Repeat that,
Paul,
Claire, I didn't understand what you just said.
Oh, just getting you help with the calendar thing.
Oh, thank you. Okay.
Okay.
I
Well,
wonder
I think
if Paul could send around our contact information to the group.
yeah, I'm trying to think of who, like, when you say contact information, you said in alignment with that preferred communications method. If you guys can help me out with that, if you can put your contact information, send it to me, and I will aggregate it somehow.
Okay.
Because I have some people's information. Anita, Joey, you guys can. I'm trying to think of how to. Here, I'm gonna put my email.
I just put mine in the chat.
Oh, I know, but then I have to like.
Oh.
Grab it. Send it to my email. It saves me a lot of trouble of like trying to
I'll
figure out
save
where
it
everyone
down,
put their
so-
That'll make it
What
much
is your,
easier.
what is your email, Paul?
I just put it in the chat.
Oh, okay.
I'll save
Okay,
the
and
chat
so-
if anybody doesn't know how to, if y'all want to put
Yeah.
your stuff in there.
Yeah. Oh, I see. Oh, look at that. Look at you people. Okay, well maybe I will just grab and cut and paste and then do that. So folks, if you've put it in the chat already, do so. Otherwise, send me an email, but I have to run very quickly.
Okay.
Any final thoughts?
Gratitude. Thank you.
Gratitude.
Really good job, Paul,
Yeah.
teaching while you facilitated.
Amazing.
We did the last Thursday on a blog post with the YouTube video for the recording. If you guys want that, let me know.
Yeah, and next Thursday is our same time, same bat place. We just been doing this every week until the end of the world.
Yeah, interchangeable. Good. Yay. Thank you.
Wait a minute.
I don't
Wait
think
a
I'll be
minute.
around for that one. No.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you so much,
all.
y'all. Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, everybody.
Nice to see you, Anita.
Yes, and
Nice
Joey,
meeting you all.
And
You
Joey.
too,
That's
Julie.
please
exciting.
come back.
Yes, please come back.
Thank you
Everybody.
all.